However, we're talking about bears, but not a bear market. Wow. Good work, Celeste.
Reilly, nice to see you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, welcome on in with Game and Fish here in Arizona. What is happening? You guys had released an image of a bear. Where was this?
Yeah, so the department recently released a video about some of the work my program has been doing within the research branch at Game and Fish here in Phoenix.
So where did you go? Geolocate this for us.
So this particular video took place up in Flagstaff, although there were a couple clips from some of the work we've done across the state.
What part of Flagstaff?
The mountains north of Flagstaff.
North, yeah.
I would be hard pressed to find an exact area.
Well, I lived up there for a while, and there was a park on the north part of Flagstaff,
Okay.
and there had been some bear sightings
Yes.
that way.
Okay.
And I remember, oh my gosh, it's not too far from town.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of Arizonans do live in bear country, so
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Well, let's roll the video, and you just walk us through everything we're looking at here. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a clip of some den work that me and my team have done.
Okay.
Where we are going into these dens to actually look at some bears that we have previously collared earlier in the year.
Oh.
And so what we're doing when we go into these dens is we are mostly checking the conditions of those bears that we've collared. We put these GPS collars on them so that we can track their movements.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
look at this.
Yeah, no.
Okay, what does your mom, what do your parents think about you?
My mom is really excited for me, bless her. She was, she
She's
knew
like, oh my gosh, you're handling this mouth.
Yeah,
Wow.
so we're doing a lot of different things in this video, particularly, obviously we're assessing the collar fit, making sure that it still fits the bear very well, but we're also looking at general body condition. So we're making sure, seeing how much fat she's deposited, looking at the condition of her teeth and her nails, and then, once we kind of get that done, we'll exit the den and, let the bears continue living their natural lives.
So what do you do with the data that is collected?
We do a lot of things. So this is a specific project looking at trying to estimate, how bears are surviving here in Arizona. So we're looking at things like cause-specific mortality, so what kills bears and what age do they die at. We're also looking at fertility and reproduction. So, how many cubs, how many young are moms producing? And then we're also looking at movement and what's called denning chronology. So, when do bears go into dens and come out of dens across Arizona? And all of this information is to feed into models that will help us estimate the population of bears using the most modern scientific tools we
Is
have.
that population growing or shrinking?
Well, that's what this study should hopefully show us.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you know if they are going to remain asleep?
So
how do you know how much how much to give them?
Yeah, so bears, when they're in the den, they're in something called torpor. So they're not actually sleeping. They are kind of alert when we do go visit them.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's, it's an interesting time.
It's
but
like what happens when the alarm goes off and you're like half awake
A little
and half
groggy.
asleep.
Oh.
yeah,
Gotcha.
it's a reduced metabolic state that they go into to deal with less food on the landscape. And so we administer enough tranquilization drug to, based off their weights. And, so we've always had good luck so far.
Have you done previous studies like this in the past? Or is this really kind of groundbreaking?
So the department has done several studies like this. Maybe not so much on bears, but we focus on a lot of different wildlife species within the state. So, these really large statewide studies are ongoing for many of our species so that we can, have the best available tools to most closely manage our populations.
So we have one question from One Way Street in the chat and says they live in Apache Junction. They've always wanted to volunteer with Game and Fish. Are there programs that, obviously, it takes an expert to go out there and do this type of study, but are there ways to volunteer at the organization?
Yes, yeah, we have a great volunteer department that is run by a number of folks that, we bring people in all the time to do a bunch of different tasks and help all of our department biologists in some way or another.
What was like the one surprising thing? Let's go back to you guys pulling the bears out. Ron, can we roll that again? The video, it is so remarkable. What was like one surprising thing that comes to mind when you're in the middle of this project?
Oh man. You know, it's so interesting to see where these bears get themselves, honestly. You know, we really hike through some really rugged and remote terrain to access some of these areas, and it's just kind of impeccable to see, you know, where these wild animals can make their homes sometimes.
Yeah, because, I mean, Ron, when you're looking at it like that, it just looks like a couple of big boulders. It doesn't look like a big cave that you imagine in the movies or something like that.
That's surprising to me. That's not what I visualized.
No.
This is what you have to do.
Yeah, some of, you know, these bears, they will hibernate in all sorts of different structures, and so we'll have some that are in these very small little areas or even in the base of a hollowed out tree, and then we have others that have dens that are much more cavernous, or, you know, some of us can actually stand up in there. So a huge variety.
Only got a minute left. Are there anything from global warming, which might affect their, you know, patterns during the wintertime, to population growth, getting further into the bear interface? Again, only about 30 seconds left. Are there those kinds of things that are threatening the bear population?
I mean, you know, so I guess on a worldwide scale, there are 8 species of bear, and many of them do face threats like that. Here in Arizona specifically, you know, our black bear populations aren't dealing with as many of those risks that some other bear populations might be dealing with.
Right.
So
Do
that's
we have any idea what the population is overall of previous study? Do we have 50 bears or 1,000?
so hopefully that's what this study will be able to inform is, you know, a much.
Previously, do we have any idea?
There was some efforts previously looking at that. I think a lot of the early research is from the 80s and 90s. And so modern estimates, I think, have been harder to come by.
Those were good years, though, Riley.
They were.
The 80s and the 90s. You got Journey.
Good years for humans, good years for bears.
You got TLC.